Good afternoon and welcome to Pittsburgh City Council's public hearing for Tuesday, April 13th. Madam Clerk, will you please read the purpose of the bill for the
Bill
hearing?
1231, resolution approving a conditional use application under the Pittsburgh Code Title 9 zoning Article 5, Chapter 911, Section 91104A41 to Lukovich Center, Inc., property owner for authorization to operate a multi-suite residential use at 2142 Reitman Street, Block and Lot 87B, 58 Zone RMM Multi-Unit Residential Moderate Density District 14th Ward, Council District number 5.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And we have, I see Director Lehman.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you. Hi, Council President. This is Corey Lehman. I'm the zoning administrator for the city.
I elevated you. So
I'm far enough. If you'd like, I'd go ahead with the presentation. I also have with me Kevin Kunak, who is a senior planner, one of the relatively new staff members in our department. We're glad to have him. He's been handling this application. I'll give a brief presentation, and then I believe the applicants have a presentation to give as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Well, good afternoon. This is at 2142 Whiteman Street, and in the zoning district that is residential multi-unit. It's an application for a use called multi-suite residential limited. And multi-suite residential is a little bit different than multi-unit residential, which has multiple, like an apartment building would have multiple dwelling units. Multi-suite residential is the use category for where you have multiple rooms sharing living facilities, like suites, sort of similar to dormitories. And in this case, actually, the use is for a dormitory for a school, the Shiva school at 2100 Whiteman Street. And this, because the zoning code does have a dormitory category, the definition of that category is really exclusively for institutions of higher learning. And it really refers more to college dormitories, and it's limited in to districts where universities and colleges are allowed. So in this case, the multi-suite residential was this is sort of a use not listed, and this is the best fit. This use is a conditional use within the multi-unit residential district. This came before the Planning Commission to make a recommendation to City Council. The hearing for the Planning Commission was on February 9th of 2021. And all of the proper notification was sent out to residents within 150 feet of the location. And was also posted on our hearing notices webpage. The Planning Commission heard a public hearing and recommended in the affirmative to City Council to recommend approval for this application. The report, the minutes from that meeting, and the resolution or the ordinances has been sent ahead to you as part of the packet. So with that, I'll pass it over to Mr. Toll, who's representing the applicant.
Thank you, Corey. This is a very simple application. The current structure is a 2-unit dwelling, and basically we are just converting it into the multi-suite residential use, in this case for boys. Now the use itself, the school, the yeshiva, has 2 different schools, one for girls and one for boys. Right now, this would be used for boys, but at some point in the future, they could use it for girls. it would never be co-ed. I mean, that wouldn't work with their educational philosophy. So, but right now, this would be occupied by boys. And this is the second time that we have done this. Half a block up the street is a similar use, which was approved by this council, I believe about 4 years ago. And so it has worked very well for the school. So basically what we will be doing, and Shevsky will be able to talk to you a little bit about the, what the boys do and how the educational program works. But right now, I just want to go through what we are really doing physically, which is basically very little. There will be one partition wall put in to create another bedroom. And we're putting in a bike rack in the back. But for the most part, there's very little that will change, and certainly nothing will change from the street. So Kevin, if you could just put up the aerial so that we can sort of show the relationship. All right, so this is the aerial of the area. The school you can see sort of in the middle of the picture. It faces Whiteman Street. The Itkin Joseph is the other home that's been there for about 4 years. And then you can see at 4142 the duplex that is there. So basically, this is, they're very close together. They're very convenient. The boys eat all their meals at the school. And of course, it's easily walking distance. I mean, there's really very little traffic associated with this development. Kevin, can you just go to the next slide? This is basically a street view of the facility. Nothing will change on the outside from the front. There'll be a street tree put in. I mean, there were some requirements that we had because we are changing the use. There will obviously be a classification change from a buildings code standpoint, but that's not relevant to this proceeding. Could you go on to the next slide? Okay, so this is basically a very simple drawing of the lot. There's a shared driveway with the abutting property. Parking, now the boys are not allowed to have cars. They are allowed to have bicycles. So that basically the parking requirements are met with the existing 2 spaces inside of the building. So this is the site plan. And again, there'll be a street tree put in the front, and there'll be a bike rack put in the back for the bikes. Kevin, could you give us the next slide? Okay, this is the 2 floors, and basically they're just basically bedrooms, and there's really no kitchen because all the meals are taken at the school. So it's quite a simple arrangement. There's a communal room, but this is basically it. So bedroom 6 is the one that does get created with a partition wall. But other than that, there's nothing that's going to happen inside this building that's going to change it structurally for this use. And so that's basically where we are. I can have Shevsky just go through a little bit, if you would like, how the program works in terms of what the boys do on a standard day. But other than that, this is what we have.
So does anyone have any questions on that?
I don't.
Sorry, go ahead.
So Council President, we'll move to your public comment.
Okay, I don't,
I have it.
do you have it? Okay,
I do.
we have public comment then, please. Madam Clerk, please call the speakers.
Our first speaker is going to be Christopher Titus North.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name and street for the, or neighborhood for the record.
My name is Christopher Titus North. I'm with my wife Junko North. We live at 2140 Whiteman Street in Squirrel Hill.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay. So we live in the property, which is the house next to 2142 Whiteman Street. In fact, the buildings are separated by a mere 5 feet. We recently met with Chesky Rosenfeld of the Yeshiva School, which owns the property at 2142 Whiteman Street, to discuss their plans for rezoning and remodeling the property. While we do not specifically oppose the housing of students in the building, we still feel that the rezoning of the property in and of itself will decrease the value of our property, and thus we oppose the rezoning on those grounds. It seemed clear from the zoning commission meeting of February 9th that there would be nothing stopping the owners of the property from using the building for another purpose that would be covered by the multi-suite residential limited zoning category. Moreover, it seems that the new zoning categorization would remain even after the sale of the property to another owner. And I must say, it must be mentioned that most of the zoning commissioners were not even familiar with this multi-zoning residential limited category when they unanimously approved this motion. The Yeshiva School has been emphatic that they have no plans for anything other than housing secondary school age students of the Yeshiva School. Having been neighbors of the Yeshiva for 20 years, we do not doubt their sincerity. However, circumstances can change. Moreover, if and when we sell our property, some potential buyers could be off-put by the prospect of someday finding themselves living next to a frat house, halfway house, home for transient adults, or some other format that would be permissible under the multi-suite residential limited zoning category. This would have a depressing impact on the sales price we could expect for our property. We therefore must reiterate our objection to the rezoning request. However, we would be willing to reconsider and possibly withdraw our objection if City Council were to make some sort of accommodation that would, one, make the rezoning temporary or non-transferable such that the property would revert to its current residential zoning category upon the transfer of the property from the Yeshiva School to a new owner, and two, stipulate that the multi-suite residential limited zoning would be limited to secondary school age students of the Yeshiva School. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Junko North.
Oh, do you have anything to say? I don't think she has anything to add. Oh, hold on one second.
ただ価値もそうだけど、住んでる私たちもやっぱ嫌だってことになって、とりあえずは。
And in addition to the possible future sales of our house, this does impact our own life here. So that's what my wife wants to add.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Ikuhana Halmakina.
Ikahana?
Greetings, can you hear me?
Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for those members of City Council who are always hearing from us from the Iroquois Confederacy of Aboriginal American People. And when it comes to zoning, obviously we want to be at the forefront of these conversations because this is our land. And when you're repurposing land without consideration and without prior formed consent from us, free, prior, and informed consent of the Iroquois Confederacy of Aboriginal American People, then you are in direct violation of your own policies, which are subject to the Constitution. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3 of the Constitution states, and excluding Indians not to be taxed. Not to be taxed is not to be censured, not to be counted, not to be handled, not to be mistreated, according to Bouvier's Dictionary, 1856. So, when considering zoning, when considering what to do with land reacclimation, land distribution, the Aboriginal American people are to be considered before any decisions are made. And we will continue to remind you of that duty, of that obligation, because the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It is also in your home rule charter, which is subject and falls under the Constitution. So that's the very most important part of your home rule charter that must be adhered to, is the Constitution, which stands as the supreme law of the land. So I'll remind you that city ordinances, city policies, city statutes for municipal purposes do not trump the Constitution. And I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you so much. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Kota Kibe.
Kota Kibe, please go on.
Greetings.
Greetings.
How are we?
Good.
Oh, great, great. I am
Please state your
Kota
name for the
Kibe,
Thank
Inc. of the Iroquois Confederacy. And we are just making ourselves aware to city council members in the city of Pittsburgh and to reach out to have meetings with all city council members to discuss and implement the American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, as well as to keep people in harmony and in concert and accountable to the constitutional oaths and provisions, especially when it comes to that of Aboriginal or Indigenous peoples of the Americas. That may be around the area of the city of Pittsburgh and other outlying areas within Pennsylvania. So we seek to hope to build great relationships with the city of Pittsburgh and moving forward on a journey to justice, if you will, so that our people and other people who come here to seek out freedom and new lives here in our homelands of America can have a more harmonious relationship with one another, and to share the resources, and to keep the United States and all corporate entities within their legitimate spheres to uphold their oaths and to the Constitution, and to do their due diligence and duty to our people, who are the hosts of all the guests here on our land. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Greetings.
That was the last speaker.
That was the last speaker. Thank you.
Mhm.
And now that moves us on back to our hearing. Is there any other further comments from our guest from Corey Lehman or anyone? Seeing none, I'll adjourn the meeting. And Madam Clerk, I believe this will appear on next week's agenda.
It'll be on the agenda tomorrow for, unless
Tomorrow for
yes, tomorrow for
discussion.
standing committee, yes.
Okay, so it'll be up tomorrow for discussion, and we'll follow Councilman O'Connor's lead on that. Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned.